All right, hey VC, I'm Jamie. Welcome back. And yeah, we're back with another video, and hopefully things are okay where you are. I know here we have been dealing with such extreme hot weather for southern Ontario, Canada. Way hotter than I think we've been used to in summers, but it's been so hot this week. So yeah, dealing with everything else and then the super hot weather. So hopefully it's okay where you are and enjoying your summertime in this early July. So yeah, back with the video. These are again some recent vinyl finds, pickups at area record stores, record dealers, and thrift stores, that sort of thing. So let's get to it. We're going to start things off with a reissue, the Beach Boys classic album Pet Sounds. This is a 50th anniversary mono copy, and this came out in 2016. This is a reissue. And what can you say about this wonderful album that hasn't already been said? Brian Wilson at his finest. Great production, great sound. Songs like Wouldn't It Be Nice, Sloop John B., God Only Knows. Just an absolutely beautiful album, hugely influential album. And this edition just comes with a simple paper sleeve, and it is a 180-gram vinyl, and on the classic rainbow label from Capitol. But enjoying this album did make me think about reissues, and with regards to some of their packaging. Now, with this, there's no like insert or booklet to give you any sort of historical context for what you're enjoying. If this had been released on CD, I would think there's would probably be some liner notes or something to accompany with it. But I find often it's the case for vinyl reissues. Just they're very straightforward packaging. And nothing wrong with the 180-gram vinyl, but it just seems like for something like this, such a monumental album, hugely influential, 50th anniversary mono release, you think you'd include some sort of insert or booklet or something to kind of give you that historical context. So just kind of throwing that out there. It's not always the case. Some albums re-releases do that, but I find more often than not that they don't, and I don't quite know why they don't. Okay, here is a thrift store find. This is an artist I knew nothing about, had no idea who this artist was looking at it and thought, well, maybe it's in kind of the singer-songwriter vein. And sure enough, it is. This artist is Peter Cofield, and this album is called What Exactly Is a Friend? And this was released in the early 70s, I think 1972. And just doing some limited research on this artist, there's not much information available online, but it looks like he was the head commercial writer for something called Sunday Productions, and so they did ads for things like Pepsi, GE, and Gillette. So he was like the main jingle writer, and it looks like he passed away in either 2010 or 2011. The information on that is a little conflicting, but this is really nice, early 70s singer-songwriter. Kind of stuff. It's very radio friendly. He's got a nice voice. It's kind of almost in that Jim Croce style. Very singer songwriter, but radio friendly as well. And this says it was recorded at Electric Lady Studios, New York. And this is on the Metro Media label. Yeah, the Metro Media Records, and distributed through GRT in Canada. But it was an absolutely pleasant find. It's a really nice record, and I think he only put out about 2 albums, and this would have been his second one. Cofield, Peter Cofield. And if anybody in the VC knows anything more about Peter Cofield, I'd be appreciative of getting some more information because it was pretty sketchy online. Okay, we've got some 80s fun pop, Swing Out Sister. I believe the group is from Manchester, and it's Better to Travel. I'll remember traveling. This was from 1987, and of course the track Breakout. The first song on here was the big radio hit. I'm going to have that song as an earworm, I think, for the rest of the day. Really nice pop album from the late 80s. Great vocalist. And I like this kind of sort of retro look that they've got kind of going on here. Almost kind of looks like a kind of a jazz kind of thing going on Vertigo label. And this included the original poster. Okay. And there you go. All right. Swing Out Sister, Manchester. Okay, more finds from record sellers and record stores in the area. A band called Ctrain, and this was their second album, also self-titled. It's interesting how some bands do that. Chicago, an obvious one, and Foghats, their first two albums were both simply self-titled. And so this is the band Ctrain, described as kind of a roots fusion band. And it's got that kind of, it echoes kind of sounds of the band. And this is a nice gatefold. And this featured members from Blues Project on this. So the band Ctrain. And some great trivia for Beatles fans. This album was produced by George Martin. And this was George Martin's first post-Beatles project producing. Now, of course, George Martin would produce also America and Cheap Trick, to name just a few. But this was apparently his first post-Beatles outing as a producer for this album, Ctrain. And yeah, enjoyable. Now, it does not come with the original sleeve, but it came with a Reprise. This is actually on Capitol Records, but it came with a Reprise record sleeve. But I thought I hadn't seen this Reprise record sleeve before, but it kind of suits the feel of the album. And this shows you all the artists on Reprise in the 70s, but it is a Capitol record. And so here's the classic Capitol label from the early 70s. Okay. Moving right along, I seem to be scoring Rare Earth albums. Seem to have some pretty good luck finding albums from this band. And this was a copy still in shrink and sealed. This one's called Band Together, and this came out in 1978 on Motown Records. Now we're starting to get into kind of a disco territory. This is a great soul funk band, great vocals, starting to kind of move into a little bit of a disco kind of category, and it still had the original sticker from the record store, Peter's Vinyl Museum, on here. But yeah, this was still sealed, so I don't think this has been listened to since 1978, and on Motown Records, but through the Prodigal label, and I like that label. That's kind of cool. But Rare Earth, great band to check out. Okay, a little rock and roll for you. How about some Aerosmith? This is Rock in a Hard Place. And this is from 1982. And the significance of this album, this is the only one to not feature Joe Perry, who had left the band at the time. He would, of course, come back. This album also does not feature Brad Whitford. So two new or different members for this one. And it's Rockin' Aerosmith from 1982. The sleeve is not in the best condition. We've got that side, and then we've got that side, which quite a nice little rip in the sleeve. And this kind of shows you the Aerosmith catalog so far. And, of course, on the Columbia label, Aerosmith. Always a pleasure to come across a Ginger Baker record. Ginger Baker's got a lot of albums he's guested on, and this one is Ginger Baker and Friends 11 Sides of Baker. So it's 11 songs on a single album, but I do love that cover. That is Ginger Baker right there. Again, this came out in 1977 on Mountain Records, and although distributed through Sire Records in North America. It might have come out in 1976 in the UK and 77 through North America. Again, a great band. He's got Richard Gregg featured on this, but it does kind of venture into disco territory, but not too bad. Still great, features great Ginger Baker drumming. Working with some great musicians. There's a track on here called Howlin' Wolf, an obvious tribute to Howlin' Wolf, and of course on Sire. Label Ginger Baker and Friends. So many great albums to discover with Ginger Baker. Some long lost gems out there. Okay, how about Duran Duran's first album? This is a North American release on the first album, so this, I believe, contains an extra track, Is There Something I Should Know, which was a big hit. But Girls on Film, Planet Earth, great album. I mean, this sets the stage, sets the template for Duran Duran, and this is a great album. Now, I think the first album came out in 1981, and then this sort of early reissue or repackage came out in 1983, but this is also a Columbia House edition. I don't know if you can see that right on the bottom there. Good old Columbia House Records. I don't know if this was originally a penny for somebody, if they bought 10 discs or whatever, but on the Capitol label, Duran Duran. Okay, we switch gears with the Youngbloods, a great band from the late 60s. The song, of course, Get Together, a great song. I just never get tired of hearing that song. And it's interesting, there's definitely a few covers of that song out there, the song Get Together. Of course, this featured Jesse Colin Young, who would go on to a solo career. They had just that kind of nice rock, kind of folky sound. I say, I don't have too much Youngbloods in my collection, so it was nice to pick this up on RCA. Youngbloods and Get Together. Okay, how about this from my childhood? How about Kiss and Double Platinum? If it's not too hard on the eyes there. This is from 1978 and double album, which is kind of not quite a greatest hits. It was more like an overview at the time. They were also releasing the Kiss solo album, so they were kind of taking advantage of all the Kiss releases going on at the time and how popular Kiss was. In the mid to late 70s. So this does not include the original insert, which was like a sort of a platinum award that you could write your name on to. This platinum award belongs to, and you'd write your name on there. Thanks for making Kiss double platinum. But this does include the original sleeves, the great Casablanca sleeves, and the stylized label. Kiss double platinum. It's a great overview. It was kind of like really one of the first or earliest Kiss greatest hits, but it's not simply just the hits. It's got a lot of the sort of the deeper tracks or the deeper cuts as well. Now, many of them are remixed, and the song Strutter 78 was a re-recorded version of the track Strutter. But it's got, Love Gun, God of Thunder, Hotter Than Hell, Detroit Rock City, 100,000 Years. I know Hard Luck Woman was remixed for this for sure. Beth, Come On, Making Love, Come On and Love Me, Cold Gin, Black Diamond. So it's a nice overview of Kiss pre-1978 from their good chunk of their 70s output. But yeah, that's a reflective cover. It kind of gives you eye damage there. Okay, Tommy Bolin, great guitarist, troubled individual. I think he only put out at least 2 solo albums. Of course, his work with Deep Purple, and this is his first solo album that came out, I think, in 1975, and he was still with Deep Purple at this time, so he wasn't really able to promote this as much as he would have liked to, because he was still working and touring with Deep Purple. But yeah, if you see a Tommy Bolin album, I recommend picking it up. Great guitar work, great vocals, and Tommy Bolin teaser. And yeah, from 1975, and this through the Atlantic record label. But I think there's only a couple of Tommy Bolin albums that are available. So I do have the other one on CD, but it would be nice to pick that up as well. But Tommy Bolin, there you go. Always happy to pick up any Elvis Costello records I can find. Elvis Costello and the Attractions, Punch the Clock. And this came out on Columbia, 1983. And I remember when this came out, just the cover that, wow, he's sporting some different glasses there. But this one has the track Every Day I Write the Book. Another great Elvis Costello record. He certainly was starting to slowly change his sound once he was getting into the... although he's always been changing his sound. I was going to say, getting into the 80s, he was changing his sound, but you could argue Elvis Costello was really always changing his sound. And this on Columbia, Elvis Costello. I'm currently reading the Elton John autobiography titled Me, which I really enjoyed. I like it a lot better than the movie Rocket Man. Picked up Elton John, his first album in North America, his second album in the UK. But boy, what a wonderful album this is. Now, I do have also another copy that has the most worn ringwear, kind of worn cover that you'll ever see. But this is at least a nicer copy. This is a slightly later reissue. On MCA, but it still has the gatefold with the lyrics, and you forget what a wonderful album this is, with Your Song, Take Me to the Pilot, 60 Years On, Border Song, The Greatest Discovery, The King Must Die. What a great album. And this is, again, it's the gatefold. I don't know what Platinum Plus stamp is. That's definitely not from the original, but... and then the album is inside and on the MCA label. Elton John. Now never thought I would come across this album. How about a TV soundtrack called TCB? And is I don't know if you can see here. There's little asterisks on TCB, and in the corner it says that stands for Taking Care of Business. And this features Diana Ross and the Supremes and The Temptation. This was a Motown TV special that, of course, featured both bands. This is when Motown had made the move to the West Coast, started getting into a television and film work, and so this is the soundtrack to the TV special that was on NBC. And you can see, it's, of course, it features a lot of their hits and then a lot of covers as well, kind of appealing to that TV audience at the time. But certainly some colorful outfits and colorful costumes. Gatefold and on the Motown label, and this features that great Motown label from the 70s. Okay, a little TCB. And a little Nancy Sinatra. This is the album Sugar, and this, of course, features the classic track Sugar Town. But it's interesting, the description of this. This is a mono copy, by the way. Nancy Sinatra sings Sugar Town and sweet, soulful serenades from the old-timey years. Sugar. So that's actually an apt description for this album, because it does have that kind of old style, old timey feel, if you will, because it's a lot of covers. Sweet Georgia Brown, Oh You Beautiful Doll, Let's Fall in Love, and the song Sugar Town's also featured on here, which fits kind of nicely in the whole spectrum of things. Working with Lee Hazelwood, of course, a great partner through the 60s. But check out, you don't often see the musicians that are listed, but check out, I mean, talk about working with the Wrecking Crew. Featured on here, just a few of the artists: Glenn Campbell, James Burton. You have got James Gordon and Hal Blaine on drums, and you've got the great Carol Kay on electric bass. That's just a few of the artists, but they're not often listed, but it's nice to see them listed there, so I thought that was kind of cool. And Nancy Sinatra, as I mentioned, this is a mono copy, Canadian press on this, but on the Blue Reprise label, which is kind of cool. Okay, Nancy Sinatra and Sugar. Okay, a little Canadian content. This is the artist Mitsu, and this is her album El Mundo. And Mitsu was really an early video star in Canada. She had a lot of her videos played on Much Music at the time, which was like Canada's version of MTV. And I remember the big hit Bye Bye Mon Cowboy, and remember the video, remember her performances. I forgot she does a cover of the track Spooky, which is a song from the band Classics 4, and she does a nice rendition of that track. But this is very sort of 80s, very pop kind of dance kind of thing going on. From Quebec, Mitsu. She sings in both English and French, and made her quite unique. And then on the ISBA label through Distribution Select. But Mitsu. I think you can probably check out her videos on YouTube. Mitsu. I do already own a copy of this, but it's just nice to pick up a copy of Band on the Run. This one does include the poster, so that's kind of nice. Again, what can you say? Such a wonderful album. I don't know if you watched the Ringo Starr 80th birthday celebrations, but there's a great performance with Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr at the end of that one. So, again, the great cover, great album. We've heard all the stories about the recording of this album. And this on the stylized label as well. That. And then this does include the poster, and Paul McCartney was great for including nice size posters for his albums. There we go. So many great songs. Band on the Run, Jet, Let Me Roll It. Just a great album from start to finish. Okay, Paul McCartney, Band on the Run. I did a video collab with Chris where we took a look at psychedelic album covers or records that aren't psychedelic but have psychedelic covers, and you could definitely include this one. And Chris may have had a copy of this one. This is the Paul Butterfield Blues Band and In My Own Dream. A solid, solid album, but boy, there is a lot going on in this cover, and always a lot going on with this band. This one features a very young David Sanborn. The first track, Last Hope's Gone, features David Sanborn, and it is just terrific. It's a great album from start to finish, and this on the Elektra label. And of course, Elvin Bishop on vocals, Paul Butterfield. It's a Paul Butterfield Blues Band. So I don't often see a lot of Paul Butterfield Blues Band. I don't know why. I don't come across them too often in the wild, but when I do, it's always a treat. And very nice to pick up the Best of Uriah Heep, and this one on Mercury. And of course, this looks at the great history of Uriah Heep. You've got the Magician's Birthday on here. This is pre 1973, so you're going 1970 to 1973 on this one. They have such long songs, so you don't get a lot of tracks on here, but a great rockin' band. The Best of Uriah Heep. And this on the Mercury label. Okay. And I think maybe we got time for one or two more. How about some live stuff? This is the James Cotton Band. This is Live on the Move. And I don't know if you can see up there, it says Super Harp. But yes, that is quite the cover. This is actually a 2-album set, but it's not a gatefold. But boy, this is just great stuff. The James Cotton Band, they're on fire. We've got tracks like Caledonia, Flip Flop and Fly, Cotton Boogie, Fannie Mae. This is just terrific stuff. And as I mentioned, it's a double album set, but it is not a gatefold, but it is on Buddha Records that has that classic Buddha label there. But yeah, that is quite the cover, and not to be outdone by the back cover. My goodness. The James Cotton Band, Live on the Move. Oh, so good. And maybe we'll squeeze in one more, a little bit more Canadian content. How about the band Konoe, a band that sang in both English and French. This one is a predominantly French album called Visible, not from Quebec, but from Northern Ontario, from Sudbury, I believe. I do have a number of Konoe albums. They had a really kind of a nice, I don't want to say pop sound, but a pop rock sound. But this is just a lovely album, and they were a great band, and they were on Ready Records, so this one does include the original sleeve. And Ready Records also had the Spoons on this label, and I believe this includes the lyrics insert, which is kind of cool that it's the lyrics insert, even though they're singing all in French on this particular album. The lyrics are both in English and French on here, so I thought that was kind of cool. Okay, so that is going to wrap it up for this one. Thank you so much for dropping by, and hopefully you enjoyed that. There's something there that you enjoyed. And there's more vinyl finds, so we'll probably have another vinyl finds video coming out shortly again. I've been just buying lots of records. And I should mention, too, you can now find me on Instagram. You can find me at JamesCottle519, and I've just been posting photos of albums I listen to. I don't know if I'm doing it right on Instagram, but thanks for all the hearts and a few of the comments that I'm getting. But you can find me on Instagram at JamesCottle519. So have a good one. We'll chat again. Take care. Bye-bye.